Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Keith Morris, and I'm with PDSVISION. I'm one of our technical support specialists here with PDSVISION, and I'm here today to talk to you about what's new in Creo Illustrate. I'm going to be discussing what's new specifically in version 10.0 and also release code 10.1. Both are 10, but 10.1 had some new updates from 10.0. And then also the most current version, Creo Illustrate 11. Before we get into it, this is just a quick agenda of what we're going to be covering today. So just some quick introductions with myself and also just a quick snapshot with PDSVISION. We're going to go over just a quick slide of what is new in those versions of Creo. The most of this will be a demonstration of those new functionalities, and then you will also receive my email address. If you guys have any questions, technical questions, you can feel free to reach out to me, and I will be happy to answer them. So just real quick, PDSVISION, our headquarters is in Stockholm. We have over 4,000 customers. We are a PTC Platinum partner, and we are in 13 countries. This is what these are two of our biggest partners, obviously, with PTC and ANSYS. Just to give you guys an idea, we work with any size company. We see big ones on here like Stryker, Whirlpool, Vitamix. But we work with a lot of these. These are our current customers right here, among many others. None of those customers would truly be happy with our service or exist without our employees, especially with our technical specialists. We have over 300, and they're very skilled, a lot of expertise and knowledge. This is me. I'm also a technical support specialist with our help desk. I have over 10 years of 3D design and printing, as well as additive manufacturing. I was previously a field service engineer with Stratasys, so I got my elbows deep into a lot of their systems and printers. And so now I'm on the flip side of that to where I've been involved. I've been with PDS for the last 2 years here, a little over 2 years. And my specialty areas in Creo software is surfacing and also Creo Illustrate, so with technical illustrations. And then I also have a lot of experience in product rendering and animation. So when your parts and assemblies are ready for showing off in marketing events, whether that's external or internal, this can really help bring your products and assemblies to life. So that's my experience. Quick snapshot of myself. All right. So let's get into the good part here. What's new in Creo Illustrate? So as I mentioned previously, the 3 versions I'm going to cover in the demonstration are these 3 versions right here. So 10.0, 10.1, and 11. They all have updates, and I figured since there's a few with each of them, I could just cover all 3. A lot of our users are at least on 10.0 and have gone up to 11. So I would like to cover what is new within those 3 releases. And with that being said, I'll be glad to get into the demo here and cover this. One other thing I want to mention, there is a couple other video links which you will be notified about. Both of them are on our PDSVISION YouTube channel. One is the previous webinar, which covers Creo Illustrate as just a general larger scope of Creo Illustrate, and it's best for beginner and intermediate users. And then the other is just a quick product overview of Creo Illustrate. Some of you may have expected something different in this video. This specific video is covering what's new in these versions of Creo Illustrate. So the assumption is you are already familiar with the interface and you have at least moderate experience in Illustrate. So just to be clear, I'm not going to be covering anything as far as the basics. This is already assuming you know the basics, and the hope is that you get something out of these new features in Creo 10, 10.1, and 11. I will be demonstrating in Creo Illustrate 11, just so you guys are aware. So let's get into it. If you have renewed your PTC subscription with us in the past year with Creo Illustrate, you can download up to the latest version of Creo Illustrate. So I highly recommend you are on the latest version, because I am demonstrating right now in Creo 11. So this includes the updates from 10.0 and 10.1. So going forward, any updates on all the updates I'm going to be pointing out are within Creo 11. Again, I highly recommend you just download Creo Illustrate 11 if you have an Illustrate license and you've updated it within the past year. It's free to just update to the latest, so just go ahead and download it and you'll have all these updates. The first thing I want to point out right off the bat is, so I have this assembly in what's called flat shaded render mode. To that point, if I go in my render modes and I go all the way to the bottom, there's now this checkbox for thick and thin. By default, that is actually checked because it's thick. The lines are thick by default. If I go into it and uncheck it, we now pick up all the lines that are the same weight, but they're all thin. And what that does is that actually gives you, even though the lines are lighter and they look lighter, this actually gives you you're actually able to see the components and subassemblies or any parts in better detail. So that's something that's new right off the bat. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is insets. There's quite a lot of updates with insets, actually. And I'll get into some of it now and a little bit of it later. When I create a custom inset, which there's this one down here, that's done through this Manage Insets menu right here. And if I hit Add, that allows me to create a custom inset with the colors, line weights, things like that. If I choose that to create a new inset, and let's just say I'm going to select this subassembly right here. If I go into this individual one right here, there's this new tab right here that's called Caption. This is a new feature. I'm going to check this box, and this is nice because it allows me to add an annotation directly. I say annotation, but it's really more of a note / caption. This actually allows me to add a label or title to this. So if I could just change this real quick. And also, in addition to that, they have different styling different font styling right here with the text. So I can select it. I can make it bold, italic. And what's also nice is I'm going to just change this background label to yellow so it stands out a little more. I could give that a border as well and change the border. I could change the size of the font. So if I wanted to bump that up a little bit. So that's for heading content. There we go. And you can also change the position, top, outside, inside, right now is at bottom. If I go to left, center, right, so I could align that how I see fit. There's also this option for create a bulleted list. So let's say I had a freestanding note, which is an inset. I can use that as a bulleted list to say have instructions like next to this, so that that's what that can give me. Hit OK here. I'll show you guys that real quick. So it's under callouts. If I just go to notes. So it's in here too under content. There is no caption under callout, but you got these new options right here. So if I wanted to do a bulleted list, like that. I may want to change the label a little bit. So that's what that allows for right there. So there's that bulleted list. I'm going to update this. I can also change the size to either fixed size or fixed scale. So you have, this is by default, it's on regular. So now I could go to fixed size and I could change this. Or I could do it by percentage. And now we have that. So you can choose how you want your it's scaled. So if I stay with fixed to scale, that means that will always have that scale no matter how far out or how close I am to this assembly. Same thing with the size. If I go to fixed size, it's the same thing. So it will always stay that size. So those are two new options with captions as well. If I go back to regular, it'll just maintain the size I put it at. So I believe it was about right there, maybe. So that's new, and you'll notice the difference with regular. How regular it'll scale up or down as I'm wheeling through, but so you can see the difference there. So those are two new things. Also inside of this, under my leader, there's now pen support. I can choose to make the line thick. I could keep it thin. Change the color here as well. So there's now pen support for that. And changing, so there's various pen weights for your leader. I'm sorry, there's various pens for your leader as far as how you want it to look. And depending what you choose here. Sweep arrow is the default, straight line is another. If I change this to straight line and I choose thick, I'm gonna make this red. You could also change the weight and the style. So yeah, it has added pen support as well. What's also neat is if I'm gonna duplicate this. If I go back to under insets, manage insets, and go to my custom inset, and I update anything within here under the template, it will reflect the updates to all the other insets that exist in my figures. So for example, let me just duplicate this again, and I'll do another one here. I will make a couple new ones here. And then also I'll do one down here. So you notice, so I got these two right here. If I go into my insets and manage insets, edit the template to say have a different leader, I'm going to do a different leader, and I'm going to boost up that weight. I'll change it to, something different like thin or thick. Yeah, we'll go with thick right there. Maybe I want to have it a different color. Maybe I want the inset to be a different color too. You notice that it changed within these two that I copied here. So you can also change the template itself through that manage insets option, and then it will automatically update that particular inset in all the figures. The reason these two are still the same is because I changed these individually. You saw earlier I was in those menus and I was editing this particular inset in this figure. But if I want it to reflect across all the same change across all the figures, this would have had to stay the same like these two, and then I change this options through the manage insets. This next portion has to do with 2D elements. So what that means is right now I'm dealing with what's called 3D figures. I can make what's called 2D figures, which means I'm converting a 3D figure to a 2D figure, which means then it flattens it to an actual 2D image that I can then modify. If I wanted to add lines, clean up lines, get rid of them, so forth. So that's what that means. With this one, so because of that, I'm actually going to change this to HLR, which is typically what we see inside instructions anyway. And so how we go about that is creating a new figure from this versus right-clicking and hit new figure. Instead, I'm going to right-click this. Well, it doesn't matter if I right-click this one or outside of here. But if I go to new figure, I could go to current view, and then it's going to say, all right, we got this view that we want to take and flatten into a 2D figure. So that's what that means. But I'm going down here in this box that says 2D versus 3D. So that's the difference. For users that have been inside Illustrate before, you're familiar with this is 3D creating a new 3D figure, and this is creating a 2D figure. So I'm going to go with my current view here. Now you can see there's some missing lines here, but what I want to point out is there's a few things going on that's been added mostly to 11, which, by the way, if I go back to this and I also hit new figure, I want to point out that you can also create, this was new to 10.1 actually. There's this new option for blank right here. All that's going to do is create a blank sheet, and it's going to allow you just to use the line tools that are already there to create a new 2D figure. So that was new to 10.1. Let me go back to this. I'm going to open my upper panel, and there's these tabs up here. If I switch to layers, when I convert a 3D figure to a 2D figure, it automatically creates these layers, and it's based on the BOM. So if I click that standard, you can see that everything was based off the BOM. This assembly, this assembly, this assembly. It even goes as far as to break down the parts. So for example, and now you can also create a new layer. So and then you can take certain assemblies and put those assemblies into layers. So you're sort of grouping them together. So if I go here, new layer, I'll say I'll say drive shaft reel. I'm going to leave that color as black right now. Hit OK. And I'll switch back to my standard layer. I have this assembly here selected. If I right click that, I'm going to say move to layer, drive shaft reel. I'm going to put that back there. I'm going to choose it. And let's say I want to, change the color. I can now edit the layer properties, color. I want this to stand out, as red or some other color, blue. Let's go with red. Now that specific assembly is red, so it's being called out. You can use this as a base to call this out. So layer functionality is new within Creo Illustrate 11. There's also the ability to convert any of these lines to, so if I select one of these, I can convert these to lines, polylines, or Beziers. So this gives me the ability, the reason I would do that is so I could further manipulate these lines if I needed to. If I needed to extend or move some lines, let me go to this standard layer here so I could have access to this. If I choose this specific line and I choose scale, I could extend these lines. So scale is something you can do. I could also rotate, if I wanted to rotate this right here, that could be rotated. So you got these new rotate and scale tools under the edit group. That's also new to Creo Illustrate 11. So yeah, there's a lot going on here that you can do with 2D elements and 2D figures. So that's a huge update. You can still modify your lines. You can add new lines to clean up the drawing. Like for example, it's kind of missing this line right here. So you can still just add a new line there and, edit it. Right now it's still red because I'm on that drive shaft reel layer. If I switch to my standard layer here. There we go. So yeah, that's just a real small example. So yeah, a lot of new functionality has been added to 2D elements in Creo 11. And also, I just wanted to point this out. This could have been new in a previous version, but I just in case no one is aware, you see this link graphic down here below my 2D figure, and that means it's linked back to the 3D figure to this 3D figure. That means if I make some change on this 3D figure, it'll update back to the 2D figure. So let's just say I move this component out some. Well, you'll notice now this has like a little icon down here with this clock. If I click that and go back to my 2D figure, it'll say updated successfully, and now it'll make that change. So as I mentioned before, back when I was showing those 2D elements updates, I'm going to make one of these parts here transparent, and we'll do this one. I'll say about mostly transparent, 75% there. Now, let me update this view. I'm going to take this and make a new 2D figure. You can see already that it's maintaining the transparency when I convert this to a 2D figure, which is automatically HLR. Now, if I go to my 2D figure settings, I remember I mentioned this earlier, I could say treat all transparent parts as opaque, and I hit OK. And now you can see that even though this is transparent in my 3D view, it's now opaque in my 2D figure view here. So you may not want that distinguished necessarily. You may want it distinguished in the 3D view, in the 3D figure view, but you may not want it distinguished in the 2D. So that's a new option that was added. Let me get rid of this and go over some of those other options. Because there's also some new pen options that was added to that as well. I'm going to go in these 2D figure settings again. There's two different ways to approach this. So there's that option I was just talking about, treat all transparent parts as opaque. So I could do that. I could also change, like, do I want them to be thin or dashed, because that means I could, it could, if I did want the transparency to show up in the drawing, or the 2D figure rather, then I could change those lines. Or, there's also this use pens from parent 3D figure. If I check that, it's automatically going to take the same pen, all these options right here for thick, thin, phantom. It's gonna I'm gonna check that, and it's gonna use those pens. So if I say use pens from parent 3D figure, now you can see it had those pens. There's no phantom lines, but it's treating this as transparent, and you can see through the transparency those lines are thin versus thick on the outside. So it just depends what you want in your 2D figure. All right, moving on. What's really cool is now with Creo 11 Illustrate, you can copy movements / transformations. So I'm looking at these bolts up here. Let's say I wanted to just move one of these bolts out to a certain point. So let's say right there. Well, now I could, if I keep that bolt selected, go back under my transform tool, I'm going to hit copy transform. It's going to say, hey, okay, we're going to copy the movement from this to which components. I'm going to control select the other 3 bolts and hit okay. And now it made those same movements. I could do the same thing with these washers here. Leave that selected. Copy transform. 1, 2, the other 3 washers here. So that's new within 11 as well. So this is going to get into some of the options menu now, which I'm going to go into here. So I'll also be in and out of this options menu because a lot has been added to this as well. Another new option is to set font styling. So this is you can change to a different font in the global illustration general settings. So right now this is set to Arial. If I wanted to go and change the standard going forward for the font, just going to go to my options here. I'll go to, and there it is right there under general. So font is Arial. I'm going to change it to something different. Hit apply. I have a item tag call out, and now you can see the difference between those. So this next update has to do with transparent background using. So let me back up a little bit. Previously, and this was new in 10.1. So even in 10.0 and before that, you weren't able to do this. But this has been a big ask, I think, from a lot of the user community with Creo Illustrate. When you're publishing out your images, there was never an option to have a transparent background. Again, the reason this is important is because your published images always had a white background or whatever background you had set to any given figure. Now, when you publish this out, you can choose to give it a transparent background. So when you're putting that image into your working document, whatever you're building your work instructions in, assuming it's going to be a PDF, regardless of what it is, when you put this image into that document, it'll now have a transparent background. So now you don't have to worry about, deleting the white background, and you'll have a lot more space to work with. So in order to set that up, I got to go into my publish settings, and I'm going to go to edit publish options. Let's see. Right now I'm going to hit add. So this will be, you got to make sure when you're setting this up, be sure to select image, and I'm going to put no background. And so you could see that option is down here right now, transparent background. I recommend you change the format to PNG, which was always in there, but it never used to give you the option for a transparent background. So always select PNG and then check transparent background. And now I'm going to hit OK, apply. That becomes a publish option for this. So now you can see that you have that option in there. And then when I bring that image into any of my final editing of the document, you won't have the white background to have to delete and manipulate. It'll just automatically have no background. So that's a nice new feature. Another new feature is having control over model annotations, or just any annotation in general that affects visibility with insets. So by default right now, I have this inset and I have this note. Right now, this note is able to be in front of this inset. So if I wanted to have the ability to where the inset, where it's the other way around, where the inset takes priority, I'm going back into my options, and this is new with 10.1, Creo Illustrate 10.1. Go to my illustration, go under annotations to insets. I'm going to choose do not show model annotations and hit apply. So now it doesn't affect the one that already existed, but if I create a new inset, let's say I want this area. Now it takes precedence over the note that exists there. So that note, as you can see, is not interfering in front of the inset. This is something that's useful when it comes to if you do not want the notes to take precedence over visibility on the insets. So it's just more of a preference thing, but by default that is unchecked. If you check it and then create a new inset, and then that new inset will have that functionality applied to it. There's still some more I want to show here. We're getting towards the end, but there's 3 more things I want to cover. The next thing I wanted to show here was, so this was also a big ask or complaint from the community. So I'm gonna create a call out with an arrow. So I'll go to I don't want to use. I'll use item tag or use item number. And let me change this. Change my leader to an arrow. So the big thing was, what's the best way I can explain this? I'm in 3D visibility here. Any which way I turn this is obviously in 3D. You can see the arrowhead is looks like an arrowhead from this view, but when I start to turn it, you'll notice it starts to change its shape a little bit, even to the point where that looks like a dot. Now, if this was the view I wanted, but that's an arrowhead, that does not look like an arrowhead, obviously. So what I'm going to do is, now there's an option. If I go under my options, go to current figure, and then I go to my callouts here, I could say, hey, 2D arrowheads on leader lines. I'm going to check that and hit apply. Now, all of a sudden, it changed that arrowhead to look 2D from no matter which angle I'm viewing this around. So, now it'll always stick out it'll always look like an arrow no matter which way I turn this. And now it'll always maintain the 2D look inside of 3D mode for the arrowhead. The next thing I wanted to show you guys was down here in the bottom left, there's a new find and filter user interface. So I'm on my SBOM tab, by the way, instead of my figures to show this a little bit better. But now filter and find is under the same menu. By default, it's on find. Right here, there's an option to where I can expand that menu. Before I search for anything, I'm going to choose this select results. And then let's say I wanted specific components selected. So I'll just type in E11. You can see not only did it select it in the SBOM, but it also selected them here in the graphics window inside the assembly. So they're already all automatically selected. So it gives you that functionality. I'm going to switch this to filter. Now it only filters down to those parts. I'm going to open this panel that says more. I'm not going to go into detail here, but this gives me some more options to basically have a specific filtering result when it comes to finding or filtering parts or assemblies or other components. So only items that are itemized, items with a missing link to the EBOM, and so forth. Again, I'm not going to go into detail with this, but you have these options to check, which can help narrow your search results. One other thing that I wanted to show too regarding this, I'm going to go back into my options. Under general and navigation, this is off by default, this use alternate part name. I'm going to check it. You could also insert attributes. Now, with this assembly, a lot of parameters were set up in Creo Parametric to where they have all these parameters added in addition to the default ones. So, but I could add these to a list and include those in my search results as well. It's off by default, which is typically what you want. But if you wanted to use alternate part names and configure that to insert attributes, you can do that as well. One last thing I wanted to show you guys was how leader lines are treated when they're when the components are basically in front of the leader line. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna create a call out here. Just do this item tag. I'll select one of these components. This might be a extreme example. I'm just gonna draw it through these parts here. If I zoom through here, these areas where they're passing through, they're not passing through, but they're they're shown as behind the component. And this leader line is not consistent. Right here, it's got a dash style. Right here, it's solid, and then it goes back in a dashed. Any component it's passing through. So when you publish out your image, that can look pretty inconsistent and hard to. It could be hard to tell if that's the correct. It could be hard to tell if that's the correct component it's pointing to. Could be a little misleading is what I'm saying. I'm going to edit this, though, first of all. I'm going to change it to thick here. Give it that. So we know it's pointing to this part right here, but this could be the way this line style is misleading. You got two different line styles happening because it's passing through or in front of other components. There's a new update that if I select this line and I'm holding down my right click, press the right click, there's this new option that says leader in front. I'm going to choose it. And now it consistently goes, it's the same line throughout the entire leader right here. So now we know 100% what part that's going to, and there's no confusion in your final illustration. That is all I had to cover with what's new in Creo Illustrate. Thank you guys so much for viewing this and being a part of our PDSVISION family. We look forward to future business with you and all your creative and business endeavors. If you have any technical questions, please reach out to me regarding specifically Creo Illustrate. If you have any sales questions about it, please direct those emails to that link right there on the right. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.